Now, the C5 Corvette is probably one of, if not the greatest generation of Corvette ever made, in my personal opinion. But that doesn't mean I'm just going to go purchase any year of that generation willy-nilly without thinking about it. In fact, there's a couple of years of the C5 generation that I would probably avoid, while there's 1 or 2 years of the C5 generation that I would try to focus in on if I were shopping C5s in 2026. Let me give you just a quick little guide of some of the things I would take into consideration if I was shopping C5s this year. Now, just like shopping any make or model and any generation of those makes and models, I tend to avoid the very first couple of years of any given generation just because there always seems to be some quirks and issues that pop up that have to be sort of refined out of that particular generation of vehicle. I would say the same is likely true for the C5. There were some electronic gremlins that seemed to pop up, particularly the EVCM, the column lock situation that seemed actually to be prevalent throughout the C5 and even into the early years of the C6 Corvette in some cases. But those early years tended to have a couple of more issues. So if I was shopping C5s this year, I'd probably avoid those first couple of years. Now, it's not to say that I would completely avoid those early years of the C5. In fact, you could probably find the best deal on them. Of course, they're the oldest of the C5 generation now at this point. They probably most likely have the highest mileage out there, generally speaking, of course. And because they're known for some of these electrical gremlins and things of that nature, they seem to go for a little bit less. I've seen some for $8,000 or $9,000 that are maybe just over 100,000 miles, maybe not in the greatest condition, but you know, pretty solid LS rated at 345 horsepower from the factory. Still a really good car, still a really great looking car. But again, if I personally was shopping C5s, I would avoid those first couple of years. With that said, you might be surprised to find that I would actually avoid the newest years of the C5 generation as well. So I would avoid the 2004 and 2003s. And a lot of people seem to focus on them. And actually, if you look them up, if you're searching your area, chances are those are going to be the highest priced C5s out there. They're the newest. Generally speaking, they have the lower miles. They had performance improvements after the year 2000. You know, they're up to 350 horsepower with better flowing intake manifolds, some more robust internal components, more styling options, particularly on the interior. They had the fancy magnetic ride suspension. That is one reason that I would actually avoid those couple of years of the C5 is that you run into suspension issues now at this point. They can't be rebuilt. They're expensive, if not impossible to replace. A lot of people upgrade the suspension, go with coilovers anyway, and get rid of the leaf springs and get rid of those factory struts. So it's really not that big of an issue, but if you're sort of a purist and you want to keep things as stock as possible, the 2003, 2004 Corvette might give you a little bit of a headache just for that particular reason. But again, I'm all about bang for the buck and finding the best value for my dollar, the best car for my dollar. And because I'm paying a little bit more for those 2003, 2004s and not necessarily getting anything better, I can't see myself going that route, right? Now, there were some fancy upgrades made to the 2000 model year Corvette, but I'm not sure that they are enough to get me to sort of hone in on them if I'm buying a C5 these days. They came out with the fancy Millennium yellow color. There were a couple of interior styling options that became available with the year 2000. I think they went to metal sway bar end links, for example. Just a couple of other things. I'm not sure if those were necessarily big enough upgrades for me to look at the year 2000. Some of you guys watching probably know more about Corvettes than I do. It's actually likely that you do, but let me know in the comments, were there more upgrades made from 99 to 2000 than the ones I just mentioned? Maybe I missed something. Well, we've reached a point in the video where you might be saying, well, what the hell model years are we looking at for the C5? We've eliminated the first couple of years, we've eliminated the last couple of years, and we got rid of the Millennium, the year 2000 C5 Corvette. Which ones should we be looking at if we're shopping them this year? Of course, we're left with the year 2001 and 2002. After the year 2000, we got some performance improvements from Chevrolet, improving the flow of the intake manifold. They might have gotten some updated cylinder heads. Let me know in the comments below. I'm a little foggy on that, but we went from 345 factory horsepower to 350 factory horsepower. Not only that, I think the year 2000 2001 Plus responds a little bit better to bolt-on modifications, mostly because of these performance improvements that Chevrolet made. You might be able to extract a little bit more peak horsepower out of the C5 in those 2001 Plus model years. So that's something to keep in mind if you're interested in modifying your C5 Corvette. I think the year 2001 and 2002 puts us in a really good sort of middle ground in terms of value. You're probably finding some that are a little bit lower mile than those early years. They might be a little higher miles than those 2003s and 4s, but the price of them is maybe not quite as high as the 2003 and 2004, but it is going to be, I don't want to say substantially, but you're probably not going to find a 2001 or 2002 that's in really good condition, for under $15,000, depending on where you are in the country. But a lot of them that I'm seeing, and actually they don't pop up that often. I see a lot of 98s, a lot of 99s, and I see a few 2003, 2004s, but really you don't find many 2001, 2002s. Again, this is different all over the country. Let me know in the comments where you're from, and if you see any of these 01s and 02s out there for sale. I know when I was shopping them a couple of years ago, they were tough to come by, and actually had to drive 5 hours to pick one up for myself. This is the year we saw the Z06 come about as well, and some people are into those. Fixed roof coupe, different wheel design, higher end performance, 385 horsepower from the factory for that first iteration, then moving to 405 later on. So if you're into horsepower, you're a big Z06 fan, you'd be looking at a 2001 and newer C5. But if we're focused on just the base model C5, I would say the 2001 and 2002 are the best option. On top of the horsepower improvements that they made for 2001, they were finally able to sort of get rid of some of those electrical gremlins in the early iterations of the C5. Don't have to deal with the ABS issues that seem to pop up. Not only that, they hadn't yet moved to the standard magnetic ride suspension, or whatever the hell you want to call it. So you don't have as big of an issue replacing those factory shocks if you're looking to stay factory. Again, a lot of people move to upgraded suspension these days anyways. These cars are 20 plus years old, so that might not be something you're really worried about, but you don't have the ABS issue, you don't have the suspension issue in that sweet spot of 2001, 2002. With all of this said, if I was shopping C5 Corvettes in 2026, I personally would be looking for a 2002. That's what I bought a couple of years ago. If I was looking for them again today, that's what I would buy as well. You sort of get the best of both worlds. Obviously, this is just a quick guide for shopping C5 Corvettes in 2026, but let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you would keep your eye out for, if there's any model year in particular that you would sort of focus in on, and why. Providing as much information to the community is what this is all about. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are about the C5 generation and what years you might be focused on if you were shopping them this year. Appreciate you guys watching this video very much. There's more stuff coming for the channel, more stuff coming for the C6 Corvette. We're going to be doing some installations, some product testing, some driving, lots of stuff coming this summer. So I hope you guys will stick around, subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate it very much. See you in the next one.